We, of course, are here to give you a sneak peek into most of what has been trending where you haven't been, or where you have been, but you need more detail on what could be happening. Now, remember to follow me also on X as well at Anthony Sebale. And you will definitely get the content as it unfolds there on X. And of course on Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. Now, let's delve into the discussion right here. First of all, starting off with the Uganda Securities Exchange. At the end of the very last day, when you look at last week, on Friday, the last day of trading saw a total of 6.5 million shares traded, corresponding to a market value of over 1.1 billion, a very crazy turnover. Now, this turnover was courtesy of performance of MTN Uganda, which saw the biggest volume being traded on the market. Now, the market capitalization of the Ugandan shillings, and in aggregate, at least 2 of the 15 listings, rather the 19 listings, were able to participate in trading, ending the day with 4 gainers and 5 losers in total. Now, looking into the gainers side, Centum Investments led the gainers with a gain of at least 4.4%, leading by a closing price of 259 Ugandan shillings, whereas the Bank of Baroda company Uganda also led by a 2.56% appreciation in price. Equity Bank Limited as well rose about 0.3%, whereas East African Breweries Limited rose by about 0.08%. Now, looking into the bottom losers here, KCB Bank lost the biggest value for the day in terms of percentages, at a 1.66% loss, down to 1,027.34 Ugandan shillings, whereas Nation Media Group at least lost 0.77%, down to 579.60, and then Stanbic Bank Uganda lost 0.30%, down to 37.50 Ugandan shillings, and then Jubilee Holdings Limited at least lost 0.28%, down to 5,332.5. And then Kenya Airways also lost a 0.28%, down to at least 110.99 Ugandan shillings at the close of the day. Looking at the details, pretty simply put, the domestic listings performed much better. That is due to the good performance of Bank of Baroda and MTN Uganda. Now, for Bank of Baroda Uganda, they had at least 10,055 shares. 10,055 shares traded, and this resulted into a gain of 0.5%. That was the gain on Bank of Baroda Uganda's trade. Now, remember, Bank of Baroda earlier last year, exactly 1 year ago, on the 7th of June 2023, issued a bonus stock, or bonus shares, so to say. Now, these bonus shares saw the price being split into 6, because for every single share, they were giving at least 5 extra shares to every shareholder holding a single share in the company. Now, what that meant was that the price for the following day, immediately after issuing the bonus shares, was going to be split. In other words, we had a price of totaling about 85 shillings on average last year for Bank of Baroda. But by the end of the bonus issue, we had the price drop down to as low as 14 Ugandan shillings. Now, Bank of Baroda has been picking up from that. And when you look at the recent statistics, Bank of Baroda has at least a total of 300 billion shillings or worth of capitalization. And this makes the bank the 11th in terms of the most valuable stocks, and represents about 1.46% of the entire equity market on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, as far as the movements are concerned, the stock has picked up, with the current price standing at 20.0 Ugandan shillings after last week's gain of 0.50 Ugandan shillings. Now, when you look at the longer term, Bank of Baroda has also been performing quite well with a 1-week gain of 5.26%, a 4-week gain or monthly gain of 5.26% as well, and a 33.3% quarterly gain. We are up to speed in the second quarter, and results can't be any better by now, as of course we are starting a new financial year as a country, as a nation. Last week was the budget week, and lots of speculations were there for clients, different people in business, institutions, organizations, as to what the impact of this budget could be on the economics of the country. A budget of 72.1 trillion was read by Honorable Matia Kasaija, and some of the highlights were the increase in tax base, the local tax base, in order to help government raise more money. But also, very key to note is that the government of Uganda is seeking out more funds locally in as far as borrowing is concerned as well. So lots of interesting facts there that we are going to also be discussing. But as I went down Bank of Baroda, Uganda, the Bank of Baroda company still has the 4th position, is ranked the 4th in as far as the year-to-date performance is concerned. And when you look at how the bank has been able to perform in the recent past, there's been a lot of improvements. There's been a lot of movement, and as well as in far as the minimum capital requirements are concerned, this year all banking institutions were actually required to have a minimum working capital of at least over 150 billion by the end of this year. That is a new regulation from Bank of Uganda, and Bank of Uganda is saying this will help the banks to be able to absorb shocks such as what we witnessed with the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 and 2019. So that has been a story that has been ongoing, a conversation that has been ongoing between the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, as well as the Bank of Uganda and the stakeholders, which is the banking institutions in Uganda. Now, looking at Bank of Baroda's performance here, it is now the 2nd most traded on stock at the moment in the past 3 months. From 5th March to the 16th of June, the bank has traded over 29.4 million shares, at least approximately 30 million shares valued at 498 million Ugandan shillings over the period, with an average turnover of 466,000 traded shares per trading session. That is pretty much what we can talk about the Bank of Baroda stock. Well, let's have another look at MTN Uganda. This was also another very, very interesting stock to look at last week. Now, MTN Uganda is also currently looking at something very interesting, and this is what we call a second public offer, sort of like a second IPO, if I could put it, but not quite that. Now, when MTN issued shares in 2021, there were a few balance shares that were not sold out during the IPO. Now, every company that doesn't sell out all its shares at the IPO has another option to actually issue a secondary IPO, sort of another listing of those shares. So that is called under subscription, when a company does not have all the shares exhausted at the initial public offer by investors. But then that doesn't mean that those shares are going to be given back to the company, because the company had already sidelined or put those shares up for sale. And this means that they are going to actually get to look at how can we sell off these shares. So MTN last week, but one, issued secondary shares, and this is under the secondary offer, where they issued these shares at their secondary initial public offer. Now, MTN Uganda has seen its price being maintained at 170 shillings currently, and on Friday, a total volume of 6.56 million shares was traded, and it was valued at a crazy 1.1 billion Ugandan shillings. Now, the total shares outstanding are close to 22.4 billion shares, and a market capitalization of over 3.81 trillion Ugandan shillings has been witnessed on MTN. MTN closed their last weekday of trading at 170 Ugandan shillings. Now, currently, MTN is coming behind Bank of Baroda in the third position as the most traded on stock in the past 3 months. Now, we are talking about a volume of over 17.3 million shares valued at 2.97 billion shillings, and that is over the period, with an average of 275,000 shares traded per trading session, and a volume high of over 6.56 million, which was achieved on the 14th of June for the same period. That is what we have currently from the MTN stock. But looking at these extra shares, what is the current stand? When you look at the statistics currently as per what has been trending on MTN's website, you have a lot of these ordinary shares actually issued to people who already have shares, because definitely they understand the business more. But let's look at what some of the statistics are saying. Now, SBG Securities, that is Standard Bank Group, as the lead sponsoring broker on behalf of MTN company, hereby announced, this is as per what was issued by MTN Uganda, the sale of MTN International Mauritius Limited shares of up to at least 1.5 billion ordinary shares in MTN Uganda. The offer is made in accordance with rule number 15A of the Uganda Securities Exchange Listing Rules 2021, by which an existing shareholder of an issuer with equity securities already listed in the USE may conduct an offer for sale of shares to the public on the secondary market. The USE has provided its no objection to the offer, right? Yeah. Now, what's the background of this? And this is very interesting. On the 6th of December, MTN got listed on the main investment market segment of USE. The listing followed an initial public offer that started on which commenced on the 11th of October and closed on the 22nd of November 2021. Now, in accordance with Rule 32.7 of the Uganda USE listing rules, the USE granted a waiver for the company to list on the exchange on the basis of 12.97% public float attained in the initial public offer. As with the initial public offer, the current offer is being undertaken in accordance to MTN Group and MTN Uganda's objective to broaden Ugandan shareholding in the company and provide an opportunity to Ugandan retail and professional investors. Now, what are the particulars? The period is going to be running from 27th of May to the 10th of June 2024. So that offer has already closed, unfortunately. And then the sale shares are 1.5 billion shares, approximately 1.5 billion, or 1,574,807,373 shares. Now, incentive shares. The number of shares made available by the selling shareholder and proposed to be transferred at unit cost to the participating investors. And the share price is 170 Ugandan shillings. That's what they are offering at. And then the minimum number of shares is about 1,400 sales of shares. Additional applications must be multiples of 420 sale shares. Yeah, that's it. And then the qualifying investors for this, for the sales shares are retail investors and Ugandan, East African and international professional investors, retail investors, and so on and so forth, as well as institutional investors. That is pretty much the brief about what the secondary purchase of ordinary shares at MTN stands at. But interestingly, yeah, people actually bought these shares and the sale closed on 10th of June. However, we haven't got to know the results yet from that secondary offer. We hope to definitely get some of that as we push along this second quarter of 2024. All right, moving on. Let's have a look at what is currently happening at the national budget. When you look at last week, government borrowing locally to save banks, and that is one of the headlines that comes out when you talk about the budget week. Last week, government is looking at borrowing locally. Now, borrowing locally is very beneficial because, especially to you as an investor, the treasury bond yields and interest rates will go up, but that will be to the detriment of the private sector, as this will crowd out credit for this private sector. How does it work? Simply, you have government lending at very appetizing rates, and commercial banks also looking at lending government because they want to get to tap into this very great interest. But then that comes at the expense of the private sector, because the private sector will have to compete with government, which is offering way higher rates than could be accommodated by the private sector. Now, Mr. Ramadan Gobi says banks are sitting on a mountain of money of which government only borrows the excess. Now, government says it will continue to borrow domestically to keep some local banks in operation. Now, the Secretary to the Treasury, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, last Friday said that government will borrow at least 9 trillion Ugandan shillings domestically to finance the 2024-2025 budget, noting that before borrowing, a lot of considerations are taken, among which there's spurring business growth. Now, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, and I quote, said that these banks have a 27 trillion Ugandan shillings, and they are sitting on a mountain of money. And he says he doesn't know why they don't lend to the public at 12%. If they don't enter that market, most of them would be in trouble, and of course the financial sector too. So they borrow from a balanced point of view, and they are mindful of the crowd out effect that only, and they say they only take the excess. Now, Mr. Gobi was speaking on 2024 ABSA post-budget dialogue in Kampala last week in the 2023-2024 financial year. That government more than doubled domestic borrowing from 6.8 trillion to over 9 trillion, and amid a decline in donor inflows, pushing the stock of domestic debt to over 38.1 trillion as of December 2023. Yes, there are opportunities therein and challenges as well. However, of course, we'd look at the positive part. Government borrowing domestically is a very good thing for investors. This comes in treasury bonds, treasury bills that are going to be issued very soon, and quite a number of them have been issued. If I could check on my timeline here, I could give you some of the bonds that have been issued currently, but we're going to see increase in the issuance of these instruments, and most of our investors will be able to benefit quite dearly from them. However, that comes at the expense sometimes of the private sector, and it gets to sometimes get to look at what some people don't understand. You get a lot of influence, a lot of noise from left, right, and center, and then at the end of the day, you have a very huge budget which you need to finance. The donors are not doing quite well due to the LGBTQ law. So you really have a lot of decision making to do. Now, the latest Treasury bond auction results from Bank of Uganda have been released with the particularly strong interest in the 20-year Treasury bond. In a notable and interesting development, for the first time in 18 months, the yield on the Uganda's long-term 20-year Treasury bond has surpassed 17% mark, a level last observed in 2022-2023 auction. Investors were offered a substantial discount of approximately 12% in shillings for their participation, and this translates to a clean price of 88 Ugandan shillings for every 100 Ugandan shillings invested, reflecting the 12% discount for such investors. Now, the dirty price, which includes accrued interest, stands at 95 shillings per 100 Ugandan shillings due to the impending coupon payment that is scheduled for 11th of July 2024. For example, an investor, I'm just giving perspective, purchasing a 50 million Ugandan shillings bond from Bank of Uganda would pay only 47.5%. That is 12% less for the bond, yet stand to receive about 3.3 million Ugandan shillings coupon payments for within 30 days. Wow, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Similarly, an investment, let's say, over 100 million in the bond would require a payment of 95 million Ugandan shillings, right? And with the investor poised to earn approximately 6.7 million in the same time frame, right? Significant, the government tendered a total of 520 billion Ugandan shillings, attracting bids exceeding 1 trillion Ugandan shillings. However, only 475 billion Ugandan shillings was accepted in this auction. This raises the question of whether the government is exercising caution in its borrowing strategy for the upcoming months, or perhaps waiting for the new bond calendar for the fiscal year 2024-2025. It is also worth noting that all non-competitive bids, typically indicative of investors from individual retail investors and small businesses, were accepted in full, the non-competitive bids. This trend points to an increasing inclination towards treasury bonds within this investor category. Amazing, amazing stuff right there. You know, it's very interesting when you know these things, because somebody gets a 50 million shilling sum and all they can think about is buying land. But is land the only investment you can make? What if you got to buy a treasury bond that yields 3.8 million every month? By the end of about 2-3 years, you'll be able to buy 2 pieces of land that you would buy before with 50 million. Think twice, you know, think twice and make money, and make sure you invest it wisely. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you so much for following the show. Remember to follow us on X at Smart24 TV now for all your latest content, and also my personal handle at Anthony Sabale, and I'll be definitely giving you feedback. Also, check us out on YouTube on our channel at Smart24 TV Live. That's it from us right now. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.
Are you a female business owner in Uganda looking to grow and transform your business? Grow empowers you with access to entrepreneur services, accelerating your business growth from micro to small and from small to medium enterprises. Grow provides comprehensive support, including training, startup tools, business formalization, certification, networking opportunities, access to affordable credit and grants, coaching and mentorship, with all resources available for free. For more information, please visit grow.go.ug. Contact the PSFU Grow officers at Trust Towers, ground floor, plot 4 Chadondo Road, or the Ministry of Gender at Plot 2 George Street, Simba Manual House, 3rd floor. Call us at +256 394 514 071. This message is brought to you by the Grow Project, a Government of Uganda project implemented by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development and PSFU, funded by the World Bank. Grow, generating growth opportunities and productivity for women enterprises.
We've been through a lot. The only reason why we are still standing is because we're the Kirundas. And therefore the need to keep that name and legacy alive.
There's something you're not telling us.
What are you talking about?
So you knew about the
that killed Teresa and you kept it to yourself.
Lucy, the last time we did not do it properly.
Luxury redefined at Seasand Hotel as you indulge in the splendor of elegant living fit for the royalty that you are. Step into comfort, pampering and blissful customer-centric service as you select from our range of comfy exquisite living quarters furnished to meet with your royal preference. Surrounded by scenic beauty, our tropical setting allows you to escape the glamorous ordeal of city life. Our ambient green gardens will guide you to a place of revitalizing rest. The 3-star restaurant caters to your palate, serving your choice menu ranging from exotic cuisines to local delicacies. Our chefs will serve you full-course meals for a truly out-of-this-world culinary experience. Our fully stocked bar to whet your throat, from renowned global brand whisks, brandies, gins, beers and wines to our locally celebrated beverages, you will not lack for any brewage. It's an all-new experience in the East at Seasand Hotel, so visit today at Plot 15 to 19 Spire Road, Ginger, or contact us on +256 751 719 960 and +256 785 354 614 for reservations. Seasand Hotels, luxury redefined.
Blue magic is my joy. Ono blue magic, wange. Ayo, talaba kumabala, atukuza nonyirira okirako enyange. Tayisa bubi fabriki, kyonna kyekiri kigwa lwa blue magic is my choice. Ono blue magic, ye wange. And the blue magic is my choice. Hey, ono blue magic, ye wange. You used to tell me that I don't make you happy. All that time you would be complaining. I'll call you every day, yeah yo, baby, don't know.
You can now the Chibuzi app.